Welcome to this video where we're going to demonstrate the use of multi-value web services using two technologies. There's both REST and SOAP, and for REST I always use JSON rather than XML because that is the point of it. So you can see that we've got our two services set up here. Now this is the demonstration straight out of the example from Rocket Software. So we've got on the bottom we've got our protocol using the REST service, and the one on the top is the one for the SOAP service. Now just to confirm, they really are exactly the same, they're configured the same, the only difference being that we have for the REST services that the data type is in fact JSON. So you can confirm that the items being returned and the values being passed in are exactly the same. So for check inventory we see item ID and item. Only difference is, again, as I said, JSON instead of XML. Now again, just looking at the inventory request being posted in, if we look at either service, identical configuration. So nothing magical there. So we're going to look at three different development environments. So two of them are both Delphi, but they're using different technologies. So the first one here is Visual Studio C# application to consume this service. You can see it's pointing at our MV server there. It's actually a D3 service in this one. And you can see in the config the URL is coming from that config file there. So it's going to the MVS service as opposed to the MVSR service. So in the Delphi environment, we've got the same thing. We've got our Delphi application. So this is Delphi 32 using the standard IDE VCL framework, not the newer Firemonkey framework, and you see that one's pointing at exactly the same service as the Visual C# project. So now lastly we've got our multi-platform Firemonkey project there. We're just going to look at the Delphi one at the Delphi 32-bit one, Windows 32 version. We could compile it for the Android platform if we wanted, and in fact I have done that, but because we're demonstrating on this Windows computer, we'll just do the 32-bit Windows configuration. Now the difference here is that it's actually pointing at the MVSR service, so we're going to use the REST services as opposed to the SOAP service. Okay, just confirming that's the R service, not the MVS service. MVSR service. So what I've tried to do is make them as close as we can to each other. On the mobile platform, of course, we had to use a frame-based display instead of a standard one. So we can see we've executed the first web service call there. That was to find the Office occurrences in the search inventory. So you see they're all three services returned pretty quickly. The results there, difference was that in the standard example the type wasn't returned from the standard example. So the two new Delphi ones, they all return the type as well. Now check inventory. Again, I tried to make it as similar as possible to the original development, but you can see the obvious problem there, as we haven't remembered to take the attribute marks out and turn them into carriage returns. But on the web service one we did that. Okay, so here's the most complex service. This one's actually returning multi-value three-dimensional result into a two-dimensional table, which we have to do a fair bit of jiggering to make that work fairly smoothly. Again, all three services return return the values in about the same time. There's no particular advantage, although the REST one would almost certainly be more efficient in terms of bandwidth. So you can see we've got our three values there. Quantity on hand 435, 435, 435 on all three services. Nothing magical there. So again, that's demonstrating that the second record actually returned 2 rows, and we had to take our 3-dimensional data and turn it into 2-dimensional by making an empty row there. So list customers, nothing magical here. We're looking for Californian customers on all three services. All three come back fairly similar. Difference here though is the web service in the REST service, because I'm using a control that can automatically create the grid. I'm using a binding object that will automatically pass it. I don't need to, I haven't restricted the return values in the web service one. So you can see that the notes and the fax number and the phone number and the contact details are all returned for there, and then actually there was no additional programming required for that REST service to return all those rows and display them. So otherwise nothing different in the actual terms of the values there. Now lastly, on our last web service request, so it's actually a fairly basic one, just returning the Microsoft quote, so stock quote return. No magic here either. So all three services return exactly the same result. Well, almost. So again, the web service, the REST web service, using that same component, returned the change value as well automatically without us having to program any of that. And that's the demonstration of the services working.